Hi, folks. Thank you for your patience as we wait to make sure that everybody has had a couple of moments to make sure that all families have been able to log in. While you are waiting, we have shared some housekeeping items for you up there on the screen. Hi, everybody. My name is Reggie Gackett, and I want to welcome you to our first webinar in our 2021-2022 Family Webinar Series. I am the Assistant Director of the First Year Center, and tonight I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Will Andrews, Associate Director in Residence Life, and Andrew Watling, Associate Director for Dining Operations. We are so excited that you've chosen to join us for tonight's conversation. Some information before we get started. First, we want to make sure that you know how to submit questions during this webinar. You will notice that we've given you the ability to ask questions via the Q&A feature. 3 of our professional staff within the First Year Center are helping to field these questions. We will answer those that we find applicable to the audience as a whole on this webinar, and we'll respond to more nuanced or personal questions via email next week. Let's go ahead and make sure you know how to use the Q&A feature. Using the Q&A feature, we ask that you share the place that you're watching from, and we'll name a few of these locations on air. While you do that, this webinar is being recorded live. Next week, we will upload this webinar to families.wustl.edu website. Third, throughout this webinar, we will be sharing links via the chat. This will include a link to tonight's presentation so that you can download and follow along should you choose to do so. Lastly, in a moment, we will hear from Will and Andrew about the services offered by both Residential Life and dining services. If something our panelist says sparks a question, don't forget to send us your question using the Q&A feature. After hearing from all of the panelists, we'll move into the Q&A portion of the evening. Before passing things along to our panelists, I want to share some of the places that people are joining in from. We have families tuning in from Austin, Texas, Carmel, Indiana, and New York City, among many other places. Now, since I know you all want to hear more about housing and dining, I will turn it over to Will first to talk about Residential Life.
Thank you, Reggie. Again, I'm Will. So to kind of start to explain our housing process, our application is live. Students have until May the 31st to make edits to their application. And those areas where they can make edits are their room preference, their meal plan page, which Andrew will talk about later about the many different dining options, and then any personal preference pages. We really highly encourage students fill out this page because this is a tool in which we match students up. And then also any information for students needing housing accommodation requests need to be submitted prior to us running our housing process of assigning rooms. So that information can be found on Disability Resources website, and there's a portal where students have access to submit the requests. Again, I highly encourage students have to make their own requests for disability accommodations, and then of course submit documentations that way. But the most important thing on this slide, May the 31st, that's the latest you can make changes to your housing application. So picking a roommate, you have many options. You don't have to pick a roommate, but for those students who want to select a roommate, you will do it on the housing application. You only allow to request one roommate, and it has to be a mutual match. So both roommates have to make the same request. Or you can use our matching profile. So again, where I talked about earlier, there is a feature where you'll answer a couple of questions very similar to match.com, and we will match students based off of those preferences. We try to keep scores anywhere between 60 and 100, And again, we take in considerations of how cold do you like the room? How hot do you like the room? Do you enjoy listening to music loud? Are you messy? Again, all important questions that we highly encourage the students to answer honestly. And then, yeah, we're going to also talk about residential policies and room changes. We do not do room changes until the second week after the semester starts. In the fall, we will be full. So we do give students the opportunity after they've met people, if they want to make changes happen. It's usually after 2 weeks, not 2 weeks of being at school, but 2 weeks after the semester starts, we will start accepting room change requests, and then room changes usually don't take effect until a week or 2 weeks after that process. And then as far as just residential policies, all of that is on our website. I believe it's also on the First Year Center website. We highly encourage you. There's a full list of what students can bring and what they can't bring. So definitely encourage you all to take a look at that. What to bring and what to again, we really encourage you to take a look at the new students at wustel.edu website. There is plenty of information there listed for that. And then we also highly encourage you to review the residential life important things to know before you arrive to campus. We'll be sending out more information. The cool thing is, for all the first years, we're going to have a large group of people here to assist helping you move in, get you adjusted, get your items up to your room, and make this as smooth of a transition for the families and for the students once they arrive to campus in the fall. And again, all of that information will be coming through email, your Wustel email, and then also on our platforms, both First Year Center website and on the Residential Life website.
Thank you, Will, for sharing that information. Will, while hearing you speak, I was reminded of a question that I think many families are wondering. Can you tell us about the difference between a modern residential hall versus a traditional residential hall?
Yes. So I always like to answer this question by saying what they are very similar in first, and then to distinguish the difference in the types. All of our residential colleges and buildings will have the same experience, no matter if you are in a traditional or in a modern. But if I had to explain the difference between the two, it's really in the floor plan and the makeup. And we have many different pictures and floor plans on our website. So I highly encourage all of you to take a look. But to point out just a couple of differences, for our traditional halls this year, all of our traditional buildings will be single room occupancy. So that means any student assigned to a traditional will have a room to themselves. Now we have two different types of traditional halls. We have traditional single rooms, which are a student will have their own room, and then they will share a common bathroom with the students on the same floor. We also have a traditional suite, where it's anywhere between 4 students sharing, very similar to an apartment, just subtract the kitchen, and they'll have a common room, and some of them will even have balconies, but they'll each have their own individual room for the upcoming year. So those are traditional suites. Now, majority of our modern buildings are made up of 2-person doubles and 4 people sharing 1 bathroom in between. So it is more of a 4-person suite, but again, majority of the students living in moderns are sharing a bedroom with another student. We do have a couple of single traditionals, but those are very few. Majority of our housing is made up of double in the modern buildings. And that's the big difference. But outside of that, all of our residential colleges will have master level professionals, RAs, WUSAs, you name it, everybody will have the same experience living on the South 40.
Thank you so much. We're going to now invite Andrew to speak with us a little bit more about dining services.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. My name is Andrew Watling. I'm the Associate Director of Dining here for WashU. So I'm going to talk a little bit about meal plans. I'm also going to talk a little bit about nutrition on campus. Normally we would have our dietitian, Rebecca Miller, join us, but she is happily on maternity leave. So I'm going to fill in, which is probably not as good as she would be able to do, but I can cover the basics. The meal plans at WashU, I do want to spend some time because they are a little bit different than a lot of university meal plans. Our plans are entirely what we call declining balance. So when you buy a meal plan, you get a set number of points, and those points just get spent throughout the year in the dining halls on whatever you want, when you want. There's no set meals per week. There's no meal swipe or a meal equivalent. Everything has a price. You pay from your meal plan, and this allows students to use the meal points kind of really how they want and when they want, because everybody has really different eating habits. People like to snack rather than have full meals, and so we really want to make sure the plan works for every student and whatever their specific needs are. So when you look at the meal plan options as a first year student, there are 3 options available to you: the silver, the gold, and the platinum plan. The silver plan is the lowest plan that a first year student has available. It's also kind of the default. And we typically say that that'll get your average student about 10 to 12 meals per week. Now notice that's not going to cover all of your meals. We do know that a lot of students like to go off campus. There's a lot of great restaurants near the WashU campus, so we want students to have the ability to go explore those without feeling like they're giving up or they're not utilizing all of their meal plan points. But it doesn't work for every student. So we do have the gold plan, which gives you a couple more meal points over the course of the semester. And then the platinum plan, which is the largest. It's our best value plan. And this is what we really recommend for students who are probably going to be on campus a good amount of time, are looking for snacks and other things like that on campus. We have 2 convenience stores. We have sushi on campus. We're going to have a Starbucks in the fall that's opening brand new. So there's a lot of opportunities to buy other things outside of just meals. And the platinum plan really gives a lot of good options for students. There's also a number of incentives that we've added for platinum plans. So you get a coffee card that gets you free drip coffee and tea around campus. You also get a free birthday or celebration cake for your students. So there's a lot of incentives that we've added to the platinum plan to really make that a good value for students. So one of the questions we get all the time: if you do run out of meal points, you can add Bear Bucks in any amount to your account, and those get used in the dining halls just like you would use your meal points. Bear Bucks can also be used on laundry vending machines and bookstore and other things like that as well. Meal points that you have left over after the fall semester will roll over to the spring semester. So if you buy a larger meal plan in the fall and you don't use it all, you can buy a smaller one in the spring and you'll get those rollover points. But at the end of the spring semester, those points do get forfeited. So it's important that you kind of pay attention to how many points you have and know where you're at. But your meal plan can be used at any of the dining services locations on campus, which is most of them. In Bauer Hall, there is a cafe and a Starbucks that are not operated by dining services, so they don't work there. But everywhere else on campus, including our Starbucks, we have a Jamba Juice, a Pete's Coffee, and a Subway. Those all take meal points. We have locations that are open from 7 a.m. to 3 a.m. every day. We also have a 24/7 micro mart, so students have access to use their meal points for food essentially all the time. And you can always go online, they can look at their balance. Students can also just ask for a copy of their receipt, and that'll have their meal plan balance on it as well, so they can keep track of where they're at, how many points do they have left, and if they're spending them kind of within budget. And so we'll talk just a little bit through some of the nutrition stuff on campus. Like I said, I probably won't go into quite as much detail as Rebecca would be able to, but we'll hit some of the highlights here. So overall, our campus dining program really tries to make sure that we have an environment that's really supportive, it's comfortable, and it's very nutritious as well. And so we really try to make sure that all of our menus are hitting those things for all of our students, and trying to make sure that we have food for all students and all needs is very, very important to what we do. We do have, for some of our dietary preferences, we do have a large number of halal and kosher foods available. We have one location on campus that's fully halal certified in the Bears Den. We also have a dedicated kosher kitchen in the Bears Den that serves a hot kosher meal for lunch and dinner. We also do kosher pre-packs that are available around campus as well. And then we also have a large number of vegetarian and vegan menu items that are available throughout campus. And we really try to make sure that all of these different menu items have availability everywhere on campus at all times, so students can always find something that fits their needs. For students who have food allergies, I know this is something that students are concerned about, but I know if you're a parent of a student with a food allergy, this is definitely a big concern going to college. We do label all of our food with the icons that you can see at the top. So when you go into any of the dining centers or you're looking at any of our prepackaged items, you can easily tell what allergens it may contain. We also have our daily menus posted online. If you go onto the dining website, under the menus, you can see the menus, you can see all the ingredients, and the allergens are indicated on there as well. We do have a large number of allergen-friendly products available in our convenience stores. We make it a point to stock those products that are gluten-free, free of the top 8 allergens and anything else that we might need. And generally, if a student requests something that we don't carry, we're usually able to get that in for them as well. We think it's important that students have access to foods that they're comfortable eating. And outside of our bakery, we don't use nuts in our food production, so we do try to limit especially peanuts and their prevalence within our kitchens, because that is a large cross-contact concern for those students as well. So if you do have concerns, there's a couple different routes you can take. The first one is if you're just concerned about how something was prepared, you can always talk to the manager or the chef of that dining hall and just ask for them to prepare something for you in our dedicated allergy production space. In the Bears Den, the Duck, and the Village, our 3 largest dining centers, we have a dedicated allergy production space in all of those kitchens. We also have a order ahead option, and I should have updated this. It's actually the Grubhub campus app now. But there's a dedicated allergen menu on there where students can order that. It gets sent to the allergen kitchen directly, and that way they can order ahead and they don't have to wait for something to be prepared right when they get to the dining hall. If your allergy concerns or your dietary concerns are more complicated or are something that you're not quite as comfortable with, we can work with the dietitian. You can meet with the chefs. They'll do anything from ordering in special products, setting up custom menus for you, whatever you need to do to make sure that you and your student are safe and comfortable eating here on campus. And then the most important thing that any student with an allergy or any other dietary concerns can do is to reach out to Rebecca, our dietitian, and let her know that you're coming to campus, you have an allergy, and that way she can meet with you and make sure that you get set up and taken care of before you ever come to campus. And it's really helpful for us to know who's coming and what those needs are. Currently, in place of emailing Rebecca, if you email me, I can take care of it, and we have an assistant dietitian on staff right now who can help talk with you and your student. So that would be what we do until July, I think, when she gets back. And finally, we do have our Bear Balance program at WashU for students who are looking to eat healthier or make sure that they can stay healthy while they're on campus. These are products that our dietitian teams have evaluated and reviewed and meet certain nutrition requirements. And the logo that you see up at the top appears on all of those menu items. So if you're going through the dining hall, you're looking for something that is healthier or maybe is a little more balanced, that's always a good indication to make sure that you're getting the best nutrition possible.
Hi, everyone. Reggie, our moderator, his computer crashed this evening during our webinar. You know, we're all working from home. So they're just part of the trials of working remotely from home. So I'm going to be filling in for him temporarily until he joins us back today. And so thank you, Andrew, for presentation. Our first question that I have for you is, when should a student start reaching out to Rebecca and the dining services staff if they have dietary restrictions and want to chat to somebody one-on-one?
Yeah, it's never too early to reach out. The sooner that you reach out, the sooner we're able to get you in touch with the chefs and start putting together a plan. It's definitely better to reach out now rather than wait until you get to campus. As everybody is, once students start moving in, everybody gets very busy. So we much prefer, and I recommend that you reach out now over the summer so that we can really talk with you and make sure that we understand what you need and put something in place for when you show up on day one.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question and answer portion of the webinar. As a reminder, families, submit your questions via the Q&A portion, via the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we'll make sure we answer your questions throughout the webinar. So our first question is for you, Will. What if an incoming first-year student has not submitted their housing application as of right now?
So for incoming first-year students, they still have the opportunity to submit an application. So it's as long as it's submitted by the 31st, but we encourage you to submit it as soon as possible. And if I've looked at the numbers recently, majority of students have. So any student that has not, please submit an application ASAP. You can always make changes all the way up until May the 31st.
Thank you, Will. Our next question, Andrew, is for you. Can you clarify for us? I know you said that students that meal points will roll over from fall to spring semesters, but can you clarify what happens at the end of the semester if there are unused meal points? At the end of the academic year, sorry,
Yep.
in your unused meal points.
Yeah, so at the end of the spring semester, unused meal points essentially get forfeited, so you don't get those back. And so we try to make sure that students know how many points they have left. And then we also try to make sure students have plenty of opportunities to use those meal points. We run a lot of specials at the end of the year. They can buy bulk items, so students can take home any products that they like. We also have a lot of donation opportunities, so they can transfer to the Food Security Fund. They can purchase items that get donated to the Feed the Bears program, which is the food pantry on campus. So we try to make sure that there's plenty of opportunities for students to use those points, but they do need to use them because they don't get refunded if they're not used at the end of the spring semester.
Okay, looks like Reggie's still having some computer issues, so sorry, everybody. I'm going to keep going here. Our next question is for you again, Will. Can students add a roommate for consideration after the May 31st deadline?
No, you can't. So May the 31st is the last day individuals can make requests for a roommate. We will start the process of assigning rooms throughout the month of June and then release them in July. If they feel they come up with something very last minute, I would encourage you to email the Residential Life email address. We can't guarantee that we'll be able to make the change, but if we are, we'll try our best to honor the requests. But we encourage students to have to make the request by May the 31st.
Thank you, Will. As you know, Andrew, some transfer students do not live on campus their first year. And so can these students who may be living off campus also sign up for a meal plan, or do they have to find food on their own during the academic year?
Yeah, so all undergrad students have to have a meal plan of some kind. For off-campus students, you default to an off-campus meal plan, but you can choose any of the meal plans that are larger than that. There is also a bronze plan, which is a slightly smaller meal plan option, and then there's an apartment plan for certain apartment-style residence halls in some places. The off-campus plan is really designed for students who are rarely eating on campus, maybe just lunch occasionally. It's highly recommended if you're going to be on campus and you want to participate in the full campus experience, looking to getting a larger meal plan. It's really going to give you a lot more opportunities to meet up with people on campus, use the restaurants that we have available, and really just partake in that full WashU campus experience.
Hi, folks. Thank you for being flexible as I had a small technical issue. Will, we're going to bounce back to you. Do you have pictures of each room? How can we be able to see them? And additionally, what furniture is traditionally provided in each space?
Yes, so on our website, if you click on, and I believe it's our communities, I forget the proper, but they'll put it in the link in the chat below. But we have pictures, we have some really cool 3D floor plans. We have opportunities for you to stream through the room. And we've listed all of that again on our website. The pieces that do come into the room, which of course are a bed. We have amazing mattresses. I don't have to really explain all about that. You can read about us on any website. Our students love our mattresses. So mattress comes with it, a desk, chair. Majority of the rooms do come with closets and a drawer to be able to store personal belongings also. So that's typically what comes in the space, and you'll be surprised how some of the students can recreate some of these blank canvases. And I mean, peel and stick wallpaper, headboards, I mean, just a really cool things. I think on our website, you may be able to see it, but we usually have a deck your rooms out design competition, and it's really cool to see some of the spaces that the students do. Freshmen are typically always the most creative.
As a follow-up to that, are students able to bring a refrigerator? And if so, is there a place where we can see what sizes are recommended?
Students can. I highly encourage you to talk with, to wait to make some of these purchases until after you receive your roommate assignment. Students, depending on the size room that you are assigned, will determine how they want to utilize the space. But we also have a company that does fridge rentals. So if you want a refrigerator in your space prior to arriving, you can also do that. So you're not having to worry about those things. Or if you want to try a sustainable approach, we have a student-run business called Swap. And on move-in day, they will have refrigerators that were either donated and they sell at a reasonable price here on campus, so that on move-in day, as a family can go and pick it out. So yes, refrigerators are encouraged so you can store your great food from the Bear's Den and have as a late night snack as you're studying.
Andrew, we have a couple of questions that have come in around bear bucks. So can you speak a little bit more about that versus say a meal point, and
Yes.
to clarify? And yeah, go ahead.
No. So Bear Bucks are another account that's on your WashU student ID card. The difference with your meal plan and Bear Bucks, meal plan is all loaded at the beginning of the semester, and you can only use it in the on-campus dining services locations. Bear Bucks you can load as you go, and they can be used for a lot of other things on campus. So some prime examples that students tend to use them for a lot: your laundry can be used with Bear Bucks. You can use the bookstore, you can use Bear Bucks, vending machines on campus take Bear Bucks. There's also a long list of restaurants and other stores in town that'll take Bear Bucks. And so if you really want to give your student a way to have some spending money around town, but you don't want to just release them with the family credit card, this is a really good way to give them some funds. They can use it at CVS. There's some grocery stores in the area, a long list of restaurants. You can also use it on Grubhub. So if you order Grubhub to be delivered, you can use Bear Bucks even at home. So it's a really good option there. And there's also some tax savings because a lot of that is tax free. So there's some really good advantages to using Bear Bucks.
Bear Bucks are a great supplement. We encourage you to take a look at the link that we just shared for more information and whatnot in regards to that. Is there a limit to as a follow-up, is there a limit to the amount of Bear Bucks that you can use for dining services?
There is a limit to how many you can load, and I don't know what it is. It's a lot. Will might know.
Oh yeah, it's on the housing application. I believe the limit is 1,000.
Yeah.
Will, we're gonna bounce back over to you. What are the rules with mixing or engaging with other folks in terms of residence halls in consideration for the current COVID pandemic?
So we are always we are evaluating what access will look like for students in the upcoming year. During this year, due to COVID, we did limit student access to only where students live. Prior years, students had access to all residential facilities, and we are going to follow the guidelines of health professionals of what they tell us would be the best way to keep all students safe. So more information to come over the summer, but we'll definitely be announcing what the plans are once our health professionals make that determination.
And Bill, are those announcements going to come in via email, via your website? What is the best way that you encourage people to make sure that they're up to date when those announcements come on through?
When we send out information about move-in and what that's going to look like, more information will come. Potentially, I would say it could come out, like I said, I would give us until July. We should know what our plan will be, because that's when we start. We release room assignments, and then that's when my team starts making all the keys for the students. So we have to be able to know that by that time to make sure students have the proper access for when they arrive.
Great. And parents and family members, please make sure to encourage your students to check their WashU emails over the summer. Andrew, I'm going to bounce back over to some dining pieces. Are students able to pay cash for meals on campus if they're exceeding their meal plan, or are there other payment options if they are maybe looking to not use their meal points for whatever reason?
Yeah, we do take, currently we don't take cash, but traditionally we take cash. We do always take credit cards as well as Bear Bucks and your meal points. The big advantage to using a meal plan or Bear Bucks is the tax savings. Credit cards get taxed, Bear Bucks and meal plan transactions do not. So there is a very real savings and advantage there. It's also easier and faster. It goes through a different system, and it's just much more seamless and faster to get through the line at the register. But no, we do take credit cards, and traditionally we would also take cash in all of our dining centers as well.
Thank you. Will, what percentage of first-year residence halls are modern singles? I know that you had shared earlier in our conversation that the majority of housing would be modern doubles, but what percentage does it look like to be in a modern single versus some of those other options? And then do all modern singles have a common room as part of their cluster?
So I would say about 65% of students, incoming first-year students, will live in a modern double. About 10% of our modern are singles, and those are assigned mostly through medical housing assignments first. So that's why I say majority of students will live in a double. Due to COVID restrictions, we have added the traditional singles. So about 25% of the class would live in a traditional residential college with a single room, either by a room to themselves or within a suite with other individuals. And I'm sorry, Reggie, what was the other part of that question?
Just in general to quantify what percentage, and then do all modern singles have a common room?
Oh, okay. So you probably have seen on social media some of our first year students having these really large common rooms. Well, those were traditionally upperclassmen. So for the upcoming year, majority of first year students will return to first year residential colleges, and those do not have common rooms. I would say maybe one or two will this year, but majority of the students will not have a common room. We have beautiful libraries, large kitchen spaces within each of the residential colleges. And those spaces are encouraged for students to interact with one another. So even like in UMRAF, each floor have really large common spaces so students can interact with one another. So yeah.
Andrew, are meal plans set up as a la carte, swipe what you eat, or are they sort of situations where you go and swipe a certain amount and then all you can eat? Look, what does that look like here at WashU?
Yeah, so all of our locations are a la carte. So you're just paying for what you need. So if you just want a banana in the morning on your way to class, that's all you're buying. When you buy a meal plan, there's no set number of meals that it provides you because it's entirely dependent on what you eat, how expensive the different foods are. And we have a lot of different options and a lot of price ranges. So for example, you can go to some of our dining centers and get a full meal for $6-7, or you can go to Ibby's and get a steak for $18, depending. If you do that every day, you're gonna run out of points very quickly. But we want to have those choices available to you as a student. So, but there's no set meals. Everything's a la carte. Everything has a price on it. So when you go into the dining centers, there's no mystery as to what things cost or how much you're going to be spending when you go in and buy a meal. We do have a lot of value bundles that we put together, so you can buy a full meal. It's important that you can get your meal, a side, a drink, and we put together a lot of options to try to get more value out of some of those meal options as well.
Will, I know that you had shared that there will be additional communication as per the COVID guidelines as we move throughout the summer. But we have a number of folks who are asking, are there COVID limitations for move-in day, such as a limit to the number of people or pieces like that Res Life has had either in the past or would potentially have moving forward?
Again, at this time, by July, we will have that information available for all families of what the restrictions, if any restrictions there will be. Yes, prior we did limit it to 2 people. Everyone had to wear a mask. It was very timed and everything. This year, again, we're waiting on our recommendations from health professionals of how we can move forward with move-in. Our goal is to make it as a traditional welcome experience for all families coming in. But we are going to follow the recommendations of what our health professionals tell us.
Is the meal plan active and are dining halls open during breaks? So the ones in particular that these family members are asking about are like fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break, spring break.
Yep. Yeah, we will have something open on campus for dining services through all breaks, with the exception of some period between fall and spring break over the winter. We'll close down for a few days. We may not have everything open, but we will always have something open. As long as there are students on campus, we will make sure that we have some dining services available for them.
And as a follow-up, how does one access the schedule of dining hours and locations of dining hours?
Yeah, if you go onto the dining website, you can look at the same place you would go to look at the menus. You can see the hours, you can see the schedule of what's open and what's closed. Right now, you're not going to see a lot as far as the menu goes because it only shows what's open through the summer. But as we start opening for the fall, I encourage your students to take a look at that, explore what they can see around campus because there's a lot of options that are there for them to go find.
You know, Andrew, as somebody who has like a dietary restriction myself, I know it's really important for me to know a list of ingredients and nutritional information. Are those available for all dining locations? And how would I be able to find some of those pieces?
Yeah, if you go onto the menus, and you can, if you're a parent of a student with a food allergy or some kind of dietary restriction, I would encourage you to look at least at the summer menu so you can see an example of what this looks like. But our recipes are all included in there, so you can see the list of ingredients, you can see a lot of the nutritional information, and it also calls out what allergens are contained in those foods. And that is all vetted and double checked by our dietitians to make sure that it's correct and accurate, because that information has to be right to make sure that you can trust it. But I would encourage you to take a look at that. It's always there and available for you. We don't have any secret ingredients. There's no recipes that are sacred that we won't tell you what's in them, because it's important that students with allergies are confident going into the dining centers and eating the food.
Awesome, thank you. Will, we have two real quick questions looking for clarification. Do students have to live in residential life for all 4 years slash if not, do many students choose to continue living in residential life?
So students don't have to live in residential life all 4 years, but tradition has shown our students love living in residential life housing. And I would say we see a large return rate in students wanting to return to residential life housing. And that's just due to the convenience, the amenities, the services that we offer, and the ability to, again, and Reggie, correct, these are parents on here, correct?
Yes, these are
Okay,
parents.
so for students who potentially may have roommate conflicts or changes, it is much easier to manage those types of situations living in residential life versus potentially living off. But when the student's ready, and I would say as parents, you will know and have a good feel for when your student's ready. At some point, they are going to want to live off campus, and they're going to want to live in apartments or others with other students that they meet. But I think it's really critical, especially in these first 2 years, living on campus, and what the first and second year experience is for a WashU student. With our rich history of our residential colleges and the connection individuals make with faculty, it's an important time in their life. So yes, I would say anywhere between from first year to now, 75% of students typically stay with us. And we saw a really large increase in the current students. We're freshmen now. I think it's almost close to 85 to 90% of students choosing to return to live in residential life.
A second area of clarification. So Will, I know in your presentation earlier, you had discussed that for 2021, 2022, all traditional rooms are single rooms, correct? But then later when you were going through some of the percentages, you talked about 25% of traditional rooms are singles. Can you just like clarify for the group a little further? I think it got a little bit confusing.
No, I understand. So when I say that 25%, so I'll throw a rough number out there. If you have 1,000, let's say 100, 25%, 25 of those people are going to be living in a traditional home and living in a single room or a single suite within a room, or a single room within a suite. And then about 65% of the people are going to live in a double with another roommate in a modern residential college. And then we do have very few, but some first year single modern rooms available for students. But again, it's a small percentage, and those are also available. So most students will live in doubles, but because we have added, we're at 85% capacity due to COVID restrictions, we've made more availability for students who are not going to feel comfortable living in a double and really want a single. We have more single options available for students. And all a student has to do is preference it on their housing application. And again, we try our best to keep it anywhere between the first choice and their third. Sometimes we do have to go to the fourth or the fifth, but we try our best to make sure people receive their first or their third choice in the process.
Great, thank you so much. Andrew, we have a fun question submitted by a family member. What is your favorite dining location here on campus?
My favorite dining location. They're all good for so many different things. I love, the World Fusion Station at the Bears Den is always my go-to for lunch. It's always good, and Sona, who works there, is just the light of my day when you walk in. The village is a really close knit community. The Parkside has some great stuff. Stanley's Sushi, if you're into sushi, they do a really good sushi and bowl tea over there. So too many to choose, but I find my way around campus well.
As both an alumnus and somebody who works on this campus, there is like a plethora of eclectic food that you can eat here at WashU, and it is incredibly wonderful. To pivot a little bit, Andrew, we have a lot of folks asking about the conversion of money to bare bucks to meal plan.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the advantage of having a larger meal plan versus having a medium or smaller sized one and adding bare bucks?
Yeah. So the meal plan, as I'm sure most people know, is not a dollar to dollar conversion. There's an overhead cost that gets put onto the meal plan. At most universities that have a meal swipe system, this is made up by unused meals that you don't actually end up eating because you have full access to all your points. We have an added overhead cost. For your silver, gold, and platinum meal plans, that overhead cost is the same. So you're not paying a larger overhead if you buy a larger meal plan. The big advantage to buying a larger meal plan up front is two main things. First of all, it helps with budgeting for a lot of people when you can put all of that into one payment at the beginning of the semester. And then, like I said earlier, we also have a lot of incentives that we've added to provide some additional value to that platinum meal plan. So you get free drip coffee on campus, you get a free birthday cake. We have a WashU coffee tumbler set that you get if you buy that platinum plan. So there's some other things that you get if you buy the platinum plan, but not one of the smaller ones. The bare bucks are a dollar to dollar transfer. So there's no loss in value to use bare bucks over something like a credit card or cash. There's actually a slight gain because of the tax savings in most cases. The benefit to bare bucks is that you can add them in smaller increments and you can just add them as you go. And so if you're comfortable providing your student with $50 or $100 as they kind of ask for it, that could be a really good option for you as well. And then bare bucks don't expire at the end of the academic year. They'll roll over as long as you're a student at WashU. So there is a little more flexibility with bare bucks. It also allows your student to use them in dining services locations or other restaurants in town. So if they're really looking to go out into town and try some of the great restaurants on the loop, I would definitely recommend having some bare bucks. But there's a lot of value in having a larger meal plan so they can be on campus and spend time and utilize all the things that we have available.
Will, we have one more question for you that some family members have asked. So earlier you had mentioned a little bit more about the traditional move-in, as well as talked a little bit about during your presentation move-in. Do students and families typically have help and assistance moving items on move-in day? And then how about early arrival or incoming first-year athletes?
So we will have move-in assistance on the scheduled move-in day. For athletes that have to arrive earlier, we do provide available for checkout, dollies, bins. That is more assistance, the assistance that we can provide to help families move in. But on the large day, it is a large organization of volunteers and help to move people in, and at this time we're only able to provide it on the scheduled move-in official day of first-year students.
We are going to ask one last question for the evening. As a reminder, families, the recording of this webinar will be posted at families.woostel.edu next week. We will share that link in the chat right now. Panelists, thank you so much for the information that you shared tonight. For our last question, what is one last piece of advice for families of new WashU students as they look to the fall semester?
I'll go first. The biggest piece of advice that I can give is to allow your students to explore new things, allow them to really be the ones to go out, and they're going to make some mistakes, and that's good because this is a somewhat controlled environment that they can make some of those mistakes in, and just make sure that they're the ones that are reaching out and asking for help, and you're there to support them on the back because they're going to learn a lot of valuable lessons that are going to really help set them up for the future of their college career and then beyond.
So my advice is, I'm going to give my advice to the parents. As your student is preparing and packing to come to WashU, have them set it all aside and then tell them to put 50% of it right back. I've seen so many parents moving out and they're like, I can't believe you brought all this stuff. How did it all accumulate? So my bit of advice is pack light coming, because I feel like all the swag, the t-shirts, the store runs to wherever, students are going to accumulate a lot of things. And I will say at move out, we do not provide assistance in moving out. So the parents end up being the moving crew of all the things your students accumulate. But have fun. Follow the first year website for parents. They have some really cool information and newsletters that they send out so you can be in the know. We partner a lot with Reggie and their office of keeping them abreast of all the great things that are going to be happening in residential life and important dates that your student will need to make sure they follow.
Families, we know these early conversations are so important, and we're really grateful that you've chosen to join us for today. Panelists, the information that you've provided this evening has been extremely helpful. I'm very confident that families of WashU students have learned a lot from both your presentations and your answers. Families, we hope that you were able to take away a lot of valuable information this evening. We ask that you stay tuned for our next webinar, a conversation with Habit Health and Wellness, occurring on Monday, June 14th. You will be able to register for this webinar at families.boostle.edu. We'll see you then.